Welcome to the Sound on Sound People and Music Industry podcast channel with me, Kevin Paul. In this episode, I talk to Dimitri Tikovoï. He's a producer and a songwriter based in London. Dimitri shares with me how he approaches making records from the beginning when setting limitations has its advantages. Dimitri, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hi, Dimitri.
Bonjour.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Yeah. When you're producing your own works or writing, do you have a fairly good idea initially of how you want that song or album to go down?
I tend to think about it before I start it. So most albums that I do, I try to really come up with a concept of how we're going to do it before we do it.
Sure.
And things change.
Yeah, of course.
There is two things for me. There is the songs, which at the end of the day is always going to be the most important thing.
Yeah.
But the sonic of it is quite crucial to the way the artist and also the fans or the people that listen to it will respond. And I think the sonics are equally important. When I record an album, I try to start with limitations. This is, for me, a good way to start an album.
What way? Can you give me an example?
I would say, like, if we're going to do the drums with two microphones or no cymbals, or, I try to start something that's got limitation, no chords on the guitar. Just try to start with a point of where people have to challenge themselves a little bit. It doesn't work for everything, but it's a good idea to find, and that's and I'm not putting the limitation on people to limit them. I'm putting the limitation on people to excite them.
Yeah.
So usually I try to find something that's gonna go, say, oh, we're gonna go record the drums in church, and because all their demos have loads of rhythms and drums, and they're gonna go like wow, or in a tunnel or whatever it is, or we're gonna replace all the cymbal with, I don't know, with chains or whatever it is, or decide that we're not gonna quantize anything or not gonna use any symbols. Make some decision and have a long conversation with the band before we start. Do a few playlists of things that we like or things that we I think it's the pre-production is, for me, is really important.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, it sounds. And you're not the only person to say that. A lot of the people I've spoken to in this series have all said it's basically at the pre-production.
Yeah.
That's where those ideas and that direction is formed.
Yeah.
And that relationship between you, the band, and the music, that's where it's kind of born.
Yeah.
How do you, though, if, let's say you're working with an unsigned artist, you might have in some ways a lot more scope because no one's ever heard anything from them.
It's actually quite tricky with new artists because benefit of experience is also a problem because you can adventure in different genres of music, and therefore you don't have the limitation which I was talking earlier.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's kind of, where do I go? You if the artist doesn't have already a little bit of a sound, then you start thinking, okay, what would I want to hear from you? And then, so that's the way I'm started thinking when I work with new people. It's like, if I was the public, what would I want to hear you sing?
Sure.
And then I take it, and then I start from there, and then I try to make, songs or music that goes into what I would want that person to sound like. And then after that, at least it gives me a starting point.
And do you do that on your own, or are you always do you sort of have a talk with the band and then come in the studio and go, okay, I'm going to try these ideas and present them to the band?
It depends, because there is two different type of people I'm working generally without categorizing is either bands or solo artists.
Yeah.
A lot of the pop artists, you have... It's quite weird working with pop artists because usually you do a 1 or 2 day session with them and it's a writing session. So you have to be really quick and you have a discussion when they arrive, you go for coffee, you have a chat, and then here you go.
And then
straight in, and you have to have a song finished and produced by the end of the day. So and I quite like working like that. The danger of it is to sound a little bit generic, but at the same time, it's kind of the way. That's why a lot of pop music is quite generic, is because people don't have time to develop their sound.
Yeah, sure.
And they work with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you can end up, it's not difficult to write a song in 1 day. It's once you get the hang of it, what's difficult is to find something that's got personality and character in 1 day. With bands, it's a different approach because I'm actually using them as it's an exchange, I'm giving them something and I want them to give me something back, and I'm feeding from what they're giving me, and I'm helping them with what I've learned in order to try to push them further.
You came to London and you ended up working with Flood for a long time. Where did you go from there?
Well, actually, after we did a lot of stuff together, because after he started using me as his musician programmer person, I started producing stuff. One of my first big break was Placebo, which I produced, and so I asked Flood to mix it because he was my mentor. So after that, we kind of went back and forth where he was asking me to do things for him and I was asking him to do things for me. So
how did that feel? Like you'd come from that kind of place of looking up and you ended up working alongside him.
It was great. For me, I don't it's not really really a competition music, and I think I've learned a lot from him and I still don't know what he does.
Yeah, I know exactly
I've taken a lot of things that he was doing and applied it to what I'm doing, but what Flood does is what Flood does. Yeah. It's like I've worked with other people, and I think everybody develops their own personal skills in different ways. So,
I could watch what you do today. I could go home and replicate that, but it won't sound the way you make it sound.
No,
it will just sound the way I think it should sound.
Yeah, and sometimes it's useful to see how someone does something, but it doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
It's kind of... Yeah. I've seen people, making things in some ways, and it works great for that session that they're doing, and each time I'm doing it, it doesn't work for me. So it's kind of, or even, there's a lot of different angles to things. So it's funny, I keep trying to learn and to push myself. So I understood working with Flood a lot about the psychology of music, how to interact with artists, how to mic things and record them in a way that was really important for me. I looked at him, how he was mixing, and there is an element of the way Flood mixes stuff it's a bit voodoo.
A bit voodoo?
Yeah. I think he's doing some random thing that nobody else does. And I remember one day sitting in the room and Flood is on Pro Tools. And I was pretty good on Pro Tools at that point. And Flood is really slow on Pro Tools. And I was watching him and it was so tedious. It's like he was doing something and I was behind him and I was like, just let me do it. And then I'm bored and I'm like, okay. And then 45 minutes later, he plays something and I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've been there.
I don't know what he did. And I don't know how he got about it because it looked ridiculous, whatever he was doing.
Yeah.
But it sounded amazing.
Yeah, I've been
And
there.
I was like, how did that happen? Anyway, so after that, I mean, for me, the thing I really wanted to learn was understand the next step, which was mixing. So I've watched loads and loads of video online of mixing engineer, how to mix and stuff like that. I got to a point where I said, okay, I start to get it. The problem about when you learn something new, you tend to apply a technique and not use your ears necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a bit of back and forth. And what was really interesting is about, what was it, 2 months ago? I did a mix for a project I produced called Truces that isn't out yet. I produced the track, co-wrote it, mixed it, and I was really happy with the mix. And the whole album, the Alan mixed the whole album. So they said, do you mind giving your track to Alan? I was like, yeah, sure. Because I was like, my mix is pretty good. I want to see if he can beat that. And then he sent the mix back, and I was like, first mix he sent. I was like, there's not even any tweak. I was like, oh, you bastard. This is why you are Alan Mulder. You know, it's just like, it's like.
I listened to a lot of mix engineer stuff. And you're constantly going, how the hell do they get that width? How do they get that depth? How do they get that?
And I was like,
and you're struggling for ages in the box, going like, is it more of this? What about that?
What was really frustrating, and interesting, is the fact that it was exactly the same as what I did. It just sounded better.
Yeah.
It didn't change the balance or the feeling of the track or anything like that. It was better.
Yeah.
So, and that makes me, that's good for me because it makes me want to keep learning.
Yeah, sure.
I'm like, okay, there is more to learn. I'm not there yet.
Are you mixing in the box?
Yeah, I tend to mix in the box, yeah.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of... I try to find my way of doing things. So, for me, the box works quite well.
Well, you have to find your way, don't you? It's, as we said, the idea isn't to copy people. The idea is to apply what you've seen and make it your own.
Yeah. I think at some point I bought a Thermonic Culture, what is it called? The
Fat Bastard?
Fat Bastard thing.
The mixer, the summing mixer?
Yeah, the summing. Yeah. And I used it for a year and a half and it just didn't work for me. I preferred the sound in the box.
Just straight out of the box.
Yeah, it just, don't know. It's, everyone have their own thing.
Yeah, of course, yeah. There's no right way though, is there? I think a lot of people who are starting out or maybe listening to this thinking, how do you make yourself sound like Flood or Dimitri or Alan Mulder or Dave Bascom or whoever? You've really got to just develop your sound.
It's just, I think it's the way everyone's brain is wired differently. So you're looking for different things, there isn't, that's why you get to the point where you get to, After that, what's in between is what you've learned. And it's such a tricky thing, music, because it's a connection, it's an emotional connection with something. What I find really hard for me is when people send me demos and I listen to the demo and I'm like, this is really good. And I don't know how to make it better. Because even if it sounds... Sonically.
Yeah.
The demo emotionally is so good.
Yeah.
How am I going to do that? How am I going to make that? I understand that it connects with me 100%.
Yeah.
But you can't put it out because I understand that for people that don't have the ear training, etc., they need it to be presented in a better way so they can hear it.
Yeah.
And this is our job as producer, mixing engineer,
of course, that's exactly the job.
So, and sometimes I'm like, how do I do that? I can make it sound better, or I can make it more in tune, or I can clean it up. But that feeling that you've got on the demo, how do I keep it or make it better if possible while doing all those other things. And that can be really hard.
Do you have a favourite piece of equipment that you use in the studio all the time, or do you have something that you do every time you make a record, or a lot of the time that without it you feel lost, or you feel like it's not you? Do you have something like that you do?
I think interaction with the artists is quite the most important thing.
Yeah, sure.
Most important. The brain, I'm going to say the brain is the most important piece of equipment in the studio.
Brilliant. The last section is called Dither and Delay. This is about basically things you try to avoid when you're making records, or writing, or mixing.
That's a good question. I'm quite open to anything, so I don't try to avoid anything. I quite like when I disagree with people because I like a challenge. I like people that are difficult because I think usually, well, it's not true, but I think that at the age I'm at and with what I've learned, this is on me to try to grab something from it. If you manage to get something from someone that's difficult, then you might be onto a winner.
How do you? This is quite an interesting thing. How do you, when you're first starting your career and you meet someone who's difficult?
I've got a story about that. Well, the first big gig I got was with Placebo. I did a few B-sides for them before. I did Running Up That Hill at that point, and they asked me to produce Meds.
Yeah.
And we go in the studio, and they got me in because, so far it's been really easy working with me. I was doing loads of programming. And like I said, in my head, I had thought long and hard about the album that I wanted them to make, but I didn't discuss it with them. And I thought, at this stage in their career, I think they should go back to making something that's got a bit more realness and that's got a bit darker with real instrument, them playing it, hearing their feeling. The thing that I always liked about Brian was when he sings that it's believable. So I didn't want to polish it. I wanted to do the opposite. I wanted to get the raw side out of him, the emotion. So the first thing we did, we were in Olympic. I can't remember where we were. And first song, started playing it, sounded good, and then I said, can we try a different key? He said, why? I said, just want to try it. They were, it works in that key. I said, yeah, but I want to try it. So he said, fine. And then I made it, and I said, can we try into another key? And it's like, why are we trying another key? I just want to see where the emotion is different into that other key. Anyway, it kind of escalated. And then he left after 15 minutes. He had enough. And he left the studio. And everybody looked at each other. And I was like, okay, I have lost the job in 15 minutes. And he called me about 45 minutes later. He said, I'm in the pub around the corner. Come and meet me. And so I come and meet with him. And he said, what are you doing? We got you because we thought, we were friends. It was going to be easy. I said, yeah, but I want the album to be good. And I'm trying to make sure it's good. I want to challenge you. I want to experiment a little bit. I'm trying different keys because I want to see where the emotion stands. And he understood what I was trying to do. It's just I hadn't explained it to him before.
Okay.
And he said, okay, fine. We'll just try it.
Yeah.
And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll agree that it doesn't work. And that was, and then from there on, the whole album was, let's try it.
Wow.
But it was a good lesson for me because I didn't communicate that before I started because I was so nervous.
Right.
but it was also a good lesson because I didn't let go.
You didn't let go.
I didn't let go.
Because that's quite important in the studio, isn't it?
I think it's
knowing when to let go.
Yeah, I didn't let go because I believe I didn't want to do an average Placebo album. I didn't want to do to be the guy. So I've already done some great music. I didn't want to be doing something average. I wanted to do something exceptional. So I was pushing to try to see, I was green and I was pushing to try to see where I could get anything from them that someone else didn't get. So for me, experimenting was going to be a big part of it. And we did experiment. We tried loads of weird things. But it still sounds organic. It doesn't sound overproduced to me. And there is some moments in there which I think are still some of my favorite stuff that I've done. So that answered when to let go and when not to let go, and the relationship with artists. Now I deal with it differently. I try to discuss to have the discussion before. I think I try to avoid having full-on blown-out argument because I don't think it's mature. I think I know better, but having discussion is important.
Dimitri, it's been absolutely fantastic talking with you. I have to say, I've totally enjoyed this morning.
My pleasure.
It's been great to catch up with you. Thank you very much for coming to Mixbus.
No problem.
Thank you for listening, and be sure to check out the show notes page for this episode, where you'll find further information along with web links and details of all our other episodes. And just before you go, let me point you to the Sound on Sound /podcasts website page, where you can explore what's playing on our other channels. This has been a Mixbus production by me, Kevin Paul, for Sound on Sound.